Hi there, my name is Elizabeth and I'm from the UNT Dallas Learning Commons. In this video presentation, we're going to be talking about how to write a paper using APA format and citations. First, we'll discuss the basics of APA format. Then we'll break down the sections of an APA research paper. Next, we'll talk about APA citations, including the reference page and in-text citations. Finally, we'll conclude with how you can receive additional assistance on APA and all of your writing needs at the UNT Dallas Learning Commons. All right, let's get started. First, what is APA? APA stands for the American Psychological Association, and the APA Style Manual establishes standards of written communication concerning organization of content, writing style, citing references, and how to prepare a manuscript for publication in certain disciplines. APA style is frequently used in the social sciences, especially, as well as other disciplines. Here are some general APA guidelines. The paper should be double-spaced with 1-inch margins on all sides. Sentences should be separated by 1 space. Times New Roman 12 is the standard font that most students use, but APA also accepts these fonts listed here. APA requires a page number in the header. The easiest way to add this in Microsoft Word is to double-click at the top of the page to open up the header, click on Page Number, hover over to Top of Page, and select Plain Number 3. This will set up an automatic page number at the top right of each page in your paper. Another important formatting note is that APA papers tend to have headings to separate different sections. Center and bold first-level headings, as you can see in this example. Let's talk about the sections of a typical APA research paper, particularly in scientific writing. The title page, abstract, and introduction are introductory and provide background information. The methodology and results sections discuss the details of the research study performed, and the discussion and conclusion offer insights into the importance of the research study performed and where to go from there. The references provides information on all of the resources used in the paper and how to find them. Now, let's go a little deeper. The title page of a student APA paper will include the title of the paper, centered and bolded, your name, the department and university name, the course, the instructor, and the due date. Next is the abstract, a short, concise summary of the whole paper that especially highlights the research focus, the results, and the conclusion. Please note that an abstract is not always required for student papers, so check with your professor to see if you need an abstract. What should you include in your abstract? Be as brief as possible, but include your research topic and questions, participants, methods, results, data analysis, conclusions, and implications. We suggest waiting until you've completed the rest of your research paper and then go back and write the abstract at the end. You may be wondering, why do I have to include all of this information that's already in the paper? Well, an abstract is a helpful tool for readers. A person can quickly read an abstract of a paper to see if they want to read further, if the paper seems to have information valuable to their own research. Even if you don't intend to publish this paper you're working on, think of an abstract as good practice for summarizing your research to others. This is a valuable skill for academia and the workplace. Your abstract should be a single paragraph, double-spaced between 150 and 250 words. Notice that the abstract, unlike a traditional paragraph, does not have a first line indent. Also notice that there is a page break after the abstract so that the introduction begins on a new page. So how is an introduction different from an abstract? While the abstract is a concise summary of everything, the introduction is the why. In the introduction, the authors introduce the topic and explain the purpose and significance of the study. This is where you'll find the research question, hypothesis, or thesis. An introduction for a research study typically includes 3 components. First is the problem. What is the purpose, the reason behind your research? What is the major topic, problem, or question? Second is a literature review. Before conducting research, it's important to know what research has already been done on the topic. That's what the literature review is for. The literature review summarizes, categorizes, and makes sense of the previous research that's been done on the topic and highlights the questions remaining that the author hopes to answer in the current research study. Finally, your introduction will present how your research will address the problem, question, or gap in the research. You'll demonstrate this with your specific research question, hypothesis, and/or thesis. Next, let's talk about the methodology. The methodology section explains how the research study was done, the participants, the materials, the process. The method should be written with enough detail that someone could pick up your paper and repeat the research experiment exactly the way you did it. Be specific about the sample size, participant demographics, location, data collection methods, etc. Next is the results section, which shows what happened in the research study and typically includes data demonstrated in tables, charts, and graphs. And after the results is the discussion section, a place to analyze the results and explain their significance. The results and discussion go hand in hand as you're telling us what happened and what it means. Finally, the conclusion section takes it one step further and tells us what was learned and how to move forward. The conclusion discusses final thoughts such as how the study answers the research question or hypothesis, how the study contributes to the field, any limitations to the study, and recommendations for further research. Now that we've discussed the basic format and the parts of an APA paper, let's discuss how to cite sources in APA format on both the references page and within the body of the paper as in-text citations. It's important to note that you must cite all resources that you use in your paper, whether you use direct quotations or paraphrase the information. Correctly citing your sources will help prevent any accusations of plagiarism, which is a serious offense and can get you into a lot of trouble. If you have any questions about plagiarism and how to avoid it, the Learning Commons is always happy to help. The references page is a separate page that is the last page or pages of your paper. It provides full documentation of each source listed in alphabetical order that you cited in the body of your paper. Entries of more than one line use a hanging or reverse indent for subsequent lines. Look at this example entry. Notice that the first line begins at the normal place, and it is the remaining lines of the source that are indented. It's the opposite of a traditional paragraph indent. To set up a hanging indent, go to the little arrow next to the word paragraph on the Home tab. Then, where it says Indentation Special, select Hanging. Click OK. Here's an example of what your reference page should look like. Notice that the sources are alphabetized, and it's easy to see the beginning of each source because of the hanging indent. Now let's talk more specifically about how to cite each source. First of all, there are 4 basic elements of a source: the author, the date of publication, the title, and where the source can be retrieved. Here's a journal article broken down into these 4 components: the author, highlighted in purple, the date, highlighted in blue, the title of the article, highlighted in yellow, and finally highlighted in green is where the source is found, in this case, the journal name, volume, issue, page numbers, and the URL where it's found on the web. That's a starting point for how to cite sources on the reference page. For further assistance, you can work with a Learning Commons tutor or utilize our free APA resources. In addition to citing all the sources you use on your reference page, you should also cite them within your paper in an in-text citation. This means you'll cite the source in parentheses or in the wording of your sentence. There are 2 possible ways to do an in-text citation. You can include the author's name in the sentence. See this first example. You mention the author's name, put the date in parentheses, include your quotation or information, and put the page number in parentheses at the end. You can also do an in-text citation without including the author's name in the sentence. Blend the quotation or information into your sentence and end with the parentheses that includes the author's last name, the year of publication, and the page number. Most of the time, your in-text citation will be these 3 elements: the author's last name, the year of publication, and the page number. But you are only required to include the page number if you are using a direct quote. When you paraphrase, you can use the page number, but it's not required. Also, make sure to punctuate your sentence following the parentheses. Notice that the quote ends with an end quotation mark, and then there is the parentheses with the citation, and after the parentheses is the period to complete the sentence. This makes it clear that your citation is for that sentence. Today, we went over the basic format for APA, the typical parts of an APA research paper for scientific writing, and how to cite sources in APA. Hopefully, this gave you a helpful overview, and now you can begin the process of writing your paper. Before we go, I want to leave you with some information about how to get additional assistance for your papers. You can receive assistance from the UNT Dallas research librarians for help with the research process. Here is their contact info. You can find the library's online database as well as information about their services on their website, library.untdallas.edu. You can also receive assistance from our Learning Commons tutors. We provide academic support through tutoring. We help students learn long-term academic skills, and we help students with content comprehension. We don't edit or rewrite papers for students, but we will help you become a more skilled and confident writer by assisting you through any stage of the writing process. We can help in many different areas, including finding scholarly sources, APA format and citations, brainstorming a topic, developing a thesis, outlining or organizing the content of your paper, revising for grammar and sentence structure, and we can also help with other types of writing, including resumes, graduate school application essays, etc. To utilize our services, you can make an appointment on our website. You can make an email tutoring appointment in which a tutor will provide written feedback on your paper and email it back to you, or you can make a real-time video tutoring appointment through Zoom to discuss the paper together with your tutor. Our appointments are up to 45 minutes long, and we encourage students to make several appointments throughout the semester to get the most benefit from our services. Appointments fill up quickly, so schedule ahead of time if you can. During COVID-19, we are offering online tutoring options only, but check our website for updates. Here's our contact information. Check out our website, learning.untdallas.edu, for the most updated information and to make an appointment online. You can also email us, call our front desk, or stop by if you have any questions about our services or need assistance creating appointments. We look forward to working with you, so schedule an appointment today.